What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Golden Edge Mailbag. I am Ben Gotz. He is Adam Hill. We are two of your Golden Knights beat reporters, and every week we answer your questions on the Golden Knights. A reminder, if you have a question, you can send it to me on Twitter at BenSGoats or to my email at bgoats@reviewjournal.com. Or if you are watching this live or not live, if you have a question, you can leave it in the comments on Facebook, and I will try to find it and answer it. We do have a question that came from our Facebook video last week in this week's video. But Adam, there's a lot to talk about. The Golden Knights open their season Thursday at T-Mobile Arena against the Philadelphia Flyers. And so let's talk some Golden Knights. Our first question is courtesy of @thegildedjester. What game do you believe the #Brandwagon will be called up for service? That is, of course, defenseman prospect Erik Brannstrom, who was one of the Golden Knights' final cuts. He is 19 years old. He is highly skilled. He is now in the minors with the Chicago Wolves of the American Hockey League. And Adam, I anticipate he might be back soon.
He might be. Now, first of all, I want to address something about the #Brandwagon. Now, I was under the impression that Brandwagon are the people that are the supporters of Brannstrom who have jumped on the Brandwagon. I don't know if we're calling Brannstrom the Brandwagon
It's
now.
a fluid hashtag.
But okay, we can go with that. I guess we'll just accept it.
He's a small dude. It would be hard to hop on his shoulders.
It would be. Now, here's my take on Brannstrom, because we got to watch him a lot here from rookie camp through training camp and everything else. I'm going to make a comparison to Brannstrom to a guy that's in the NFL right now, Baker Mayfield. That's who I'm going to go with, because if you watch Baker Mayfield play the other day, a lot of big plays, a lot of flashy plays. He was exciting. There's no question about it. But they lost because he made way too many mistakes. Now, Brannstrom is not a guy that's going to, I'm not saying he's going to force a bunch of losses if he's up here, but there's too many mistakes that are made out there on the ice, and at this level, you pay for those in the back of your net. So you can't have those kind of mistakes. I think he's a guy who's going to be a great, great player, and he's going to eliminate the mistakes. He's going to be tremendous. But I think another good year in the minors to kind of learn some of those things, I think cleans up a lot of those errors. And so I think that they don't want to bring him up too quickly. We know that. If Shea Theodore hadn't resigned, he'd be up already. No question about that. But listen, Brannstrom needs a couple of little tweaks here and there. Defensively, he's made some mistakes, pinching up a little bit too much. Also, he gets a little bit too fancy at times, skates himself into trouble, made a mistake on the blue line with the puck that turned into a breakaway, even though it got saved. So listen, I'm as excited as anyone about Brannstrom and his potential and his ability. I just think that there's a couple of things to clean up for him, and once that happens, he's going to be great. And they're not in a position right now to allow a guy to figure things out at this level, and that's why you have the AHL. That's why you have other outlets for guys to play at. He's going to get a lot better. I think we might see him up here at some point, but I think they'd be very happy if he was down in the minors all season. They didn't need to turn to him at any point this year.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if they bring him up this year, because he does need that extra development time. But what's interesting to me, at least in the short term, is that he was the last defenseman out of camp. So presumably he might be the first defenseman called up if there's an injury or something in these first 20 games when Nate Schmidt is not with the team. So that part is at least a little interesting to me, is that there is, I think, an outside chance if something happens that he gets called up briefly.
Yeah.
When Nate Schmidt is out, but then when Nate Schmidt comes back, they're going to have to already send another defenseman down, so then I think that pushes Brannstrom further down the pecking order to where maybe he's 2 guys away rather than right now being 1 guy away. We have another question about another prospect, though, who got sent out of Golden Knights camp. @Zipspin Sooner asked, why does Cody Glass go to the Western Hockey League and not the American Hockey League Chicago Wolves? So the Golden Knights sent Cody Glass, he's our top forward prospect, he's a good center, out of camp to a juniors league rather than a minors league like the American Hockey League. And that's because there's some really weird kind of laws and restrictions that come to that in terms of the CBA and stuff when it comes to the Canadian Hockey League, which the Western Hockey League is a part of. So once he plays for a Canadian Hockey League team, he can't actually not play for them until he plays for 4 full seasons or he turns 20 years old. So he's still 19. So he's still bound to play for the Portland Winterhawks, great name, for 1 more season. And then presumably next year when he's 20, if he does not make the Golden Knights out of training camp, he will go to the Chicago Wolves.
And that's the caveat, right? That if he makes the team, he can make the team. But if he's in the minors, he has to go back.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, just to point that out, like they don't have to play there. They can make the minors, but they can't be sent down to the AHL. They have to go back to the WHL and play at that level if he doesn't make the big squad, which he did not. So again, we've talked about it just like we talked about Brandstrom and other prospects. George McPhee is a guy who has often said he'd rather have a guy in the minors too long than not long enough. So he's fine with keeping a guy down too long, and people saying, "Hey, that guy's ready to be at the big on the big club. He's ready to be in the NHL." He's okay with having a guy back a little bit too long, as opposed to bringing him up too soon.
Yeah. Let's get to a third prospect-themed question, then we'll get to a comment we actually got on Facebook Live, so shout out to the person who did that. Bischoff or Brandstrom? We talked about Brandstrom a lot, so I think this is a good opportunity for us to talk about Bischoff, because they did make this decision, the Golden Knights. They chose Jake Bischoff, who's a 24-year-old kind of solid defenseman, not as much upside, not as much of a shutdown guy, but a guy who kind of does everything a little bit well, and now he's going to be on the team as the 8th defenseman.
Yeah, and we talked about this in depth on our podcast, so make sure you check that out, the Golden Edge podcast.
Shameless plug.
But yeah, Bischoff, I don't want it to look like they just sent Brandstrom down because he made mistakes or because he's younger or any other reason. Like I think Bischoff did a really good job of winning a spot on this roster. I don't want to diminish what he did because he did come in, and as you said, he's more solid than Brandstrom is flashy. Bischoff comes in, he just plays his position well, takes advantage of opportunities when they're there, and he's just going to be a very reliable player, which in the spot where he's at on the roster as one of the bottom defensemen, that's who you want. If you need him to be on the ice, he's going to make the right plays. He's not going to cost you goals. He's going to do the right things for you. So I think it's a bit unfair to just say, well, they wanted to give Brandstrom another year in the minors. Bischoff won a spot on this team, and congratulations to him for doing that. Yeah,
he's, I think, a really good fit as a depth defenseman, as you pointed out. And as we pointed out in our podcast, Bischoff had 4 points in 4 preseason games. Erik Brandstrom had 4 points in 5 preseason games. But he also had a shootout goal that won them a game. But still, for all the talk we have about Brandstrom's flashy game, Bischoff was with him point for point in the preseason. So good for him for winning that spot. Let's get to the question we had on our Facebook Live right now. It was from Aaron Hernandez. Yo, Adam, how do you think the defenseman will hold up without Schmitty?
I think they'll be fine. By the way, it's not the Aaron Hernandez. I don't.
I hope not. I really hope
not. I think they're going to be fine. I think. Listen, it's certainly the bigger question mark of the units. I mean, the goaltender we know is a top-notch guy who looks to be in midseason form already in Marc-Andre Fleury. The forwards, especially those top 2 lines, are dynamic and set and are going to be great. People had a lot of questions about the defense, especially with Nate Schmidt out. I think they're going to be fine. I mean, England is getting old, but he seems like he's still very spry. He's leading the team in minutes in certain preseason games. I mean, the guy is just he's beating Father Time very well right now. So he's good. He's a very solid player. We know what he can do. Shea Theodore, I think, takes a big step forward, gets the contract, and I think this is the year that he kind of really breaks out into that upper echelon of defensemen. And they're going to be good. We talked about some of the other guys, and at the bottom of the rotation with Hunt and Bischoff, who are just going to be solid players. I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be, they're not going to be the strength of the team, but they're good enough to certainly be effective and to make them a contender in the West.
Yeah, I think the guy to watch here is John Merrill. He's going to be on their third pair with Nick Holden, presumably, and he's the guy who's really going to get a lot more ice time with Nate Schmidt out. I think he only played about 34 games last year, so not an every game kind of guy. But now he's probably going to have to be for at least 20 games until Nate Schmidt gets back. So
I'm glad you mentioned Nick Holden, by the way, because he was the guy that came in, and I know there was a lot of hockey fans that are down on Holden, throughout the last couple of years. Everything I've seen, he's first of all top-notch guy, just another very solid player on the ice that knows how to do the right things. And Gallant said that. He said, "Hey, listen, this is a guy that's been around the league. I've seen him play." He's like, as I've seen him more and more, I appreciate his game even more. I like what he does. He's going to be a very important player for this team.
Yeah, I think he was put into kind of 2 bigger roles on some of his more recent teams like the New York Rangers. But here, like I said, he's on the third pair right now. He doesn't have to play, like 20-plus minutes every night, anchor the first power play unit. They have other guys to do that. So here, I think he can kind of fit into more of a role that suits his game. And I have a feeling he'll have a nice year. We have one more question that came via
I don't even want to see this question.
It was from someone named @ChanceNHL. who asked, so Ben, this is to me, ... when are you going to have me on the show so we can take a selfie in front of @Adam Hill LVRJ? This comes from your long-stemming feud with the Golden Knights mascot, who is having a little kid put his hand inside his mouth in that picture.
Good. Chance is actually doing something there. Good for him. Hey, listen, here's what I noticed. Chance lives in Henderson? Like,
Apparently.
What is that? He's not at the facility? He's not at T-Mobile? What are you doing, Chance?
Guess he's got like a little house in Henderson, commutes to Summerlin every day for practice.
That doesn't make sense. He should live in the desert, shouldn't he? He's a Gila monster.
I don't pretend to be a biology expert here, so I'm going to leave that to the experts.
Can we say, how about this? Chance, if you bring Gritty, you can come in studio. How about that? You can come in studio and hang out with us and do the show with us if you bring Gritty with you.
Well, Chance, how about you
see?
Oh, there's your guy, Gritty.
Yeah, not only send him a thank you card, bring him here. Hashtag bring Gritty, by the way. We started that
Hashtag bring Gritty.
We want the Flyers opening night to bring Gritty out here to Vegas. We will take him out, show him a good time in town, and bring Gritty. Hashtag bring Gritty. And Chance, if you hashtag bring Gritty, you can come in studio anytime.
Yeah, Chance, just have your people call my people. My people are my mom. Look her up. She's a lovely woman. That's going to be it for the Golden Edge Mailbag for this week. Thank you all for checking us out. Remember, you can submit questions to me on Twitter @BenSGoats, to my email at bgoats@reviewjournal.com, or when you're seeing this video, put them in the Facebook comments. For Adam Hill, I'm Ben Goats. Thanks for watching.